There's no question. They brought up the guy today who sold him the gun, and he's like, I helped him pick it out, but everything he signed on there, he did himself.
Wow.
And so
that's amazing.
know it was him. We know he did it. And then we have the text messages from
I hope Trump doesn't act like the FBI. He's not a fucking federal bureau. He's just a dude.
His fucking phone, where he's talking about how there's one moment where he actually is being...
Dribble it like a basketball?
Yeah. The amount of nudes, oh my God, that I have on my phone that are not of me, but of my friend, is actually really disturbing. When I was going through my shit the other day, I was like, why do I have so many photos of him naked? And it's like, he didn't send them to me. It's where I walk in the bedroom and catch him.
Wait, these are dude friends or chick friends?
Do I have chick friends?
No, wait, are these the nudes you're referring to? Is this of dudes?
No,
or
it's a dude.
Okay.
Then he's not trying to be your friend, honey. He's trying to be your boyfriend. If you
or she's being creeper and leaving cameras around places.
I doubt she's
I go up in there.
Act like you wouldn't do that. Act like you wouldn't.
I would.
Wait, so this chick just said she had a bunch of nudes from her friend that he didn't send her? Okay. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Jimmy John's, make your mom's mouth.
Of cross-sex contact here for like establishing what is valued and what isn't.
I think you've nailed it with the kind of bigger picture social analysis, that there's an extreme atomization of dating culture now. It's very much funneled towards individually you are responsible for your own dating and just do it on the apps, right? And that is problematic for a number of reasons.
Wait. No, I disagree. So, I mean, wait. So there's a couple of, like, schools of thought here. Hold on a second. God damn, it's another motherfucking busy night. Alright, let me see if I can gather my thoughts here. So he's talking about a couple different things. So the first is like this whole, well, you are individual for, you know, essentially your sex life, right? Or your dating, right? Like, so, which is pretty much true anyway. Like, that was always true. It seems like, you know, there was a time not so long ago, right? Like this culture of romanticism that comes and goes, where people will be trying to hook other people up, right? You'll have your friend introducing you to the friend, and then they're like, oh, you know, and that doesn't seem to happen so much anymore. So now we're more reliant on social media, on dating apps, as a means of matchmaking, right? There are still matchmaker services. I had actually talked to a matchmaker several years ago, after I got out of my last big relationship. But they want big money. But you can pay a professional matchmaker like big money to hook you up on dates and all that good stuff, right? So those things are still around. I think, you know, the idea is that an app is going to be more affordable and seems to get you more hits over the short term. The problem with that, though, and what these matchmakers will exploit, is the fact that the dating app doesn't actually guarantee you any long-term results, right? So you can pay them month after month after month after month, and a year goes by and you get no dates, right? Which is essentially a you issue. Like, because you expect that by paying this service you're going to get results, when in fact the results you want are actually a change in your interactions with other people. And they don't do anything to change the way you interact with other people. They just provide you the opportunity for interaction, right? Which is out there anyway. It already exists. You don't actually need the service to have the opportunity for interaction. The problem is that you don't know how to interact.
Prioritizes very static information. So, for example, it doesn't allow for a nice, charming Irish accent to compensate for being short.
You're
right?
like doing like voice notes on the apps, like please.
Literally, I was so thrilled when that came online in Hinge. I was like, yes, I put that front and center. But it would allow. So, take me for an example. I'm about 5'7". There are probably a significant portion of women who are immediately filtering me out, right? And then I've met women in real
Well, so this guy is actually 5'7". That's bold. That's bold. He's shorter than
life
me.
who say, "You're not 5'7". You're taller than that," because they don't know, but they're filtering me out on the
5'7", I think, is in the average range. Like 6 foot is kind of like almost unusually tall. Maybe like 5'7" to 5'10" or something like that is average.
app, which is kind of annoying. So that extreme atomization.
These two fuckers, they're coming up separately now to exploit me. This is the other one. You're the other one, right? I can't tell the fucking difference. It looks like the other one. It's not quite as fat around the midsection. Here's a tactic. You think they've evolved to exploit me for more food?
You know, you talked about, in social milieu. So incels lack social milieu more broadly anyway. So you could conceptualize the incel problem as a broader disengagement from society, not just the focus on the sex. We tend to fixate on the sex bit because that's what they talk about most. But it is a broader loneliness problem. But culturally, bigger picture, there is a kind of that kind of social milieu blending. Can you meet someone at work is kind of frowned upon now. It's kind of like fraught with ambiguity, and that's it. It's kind of all.
It's not really that ambiguous. And if you think about it, it's really fucked. Because it doesn't often work in the reverse, right? But the culture is, sexual harassment in the workplace. This is the common understanding. Generally is committed by men against women. And in the reverse order, it either doesn't get reported or it doesn't get taken seriously, right? And then they've gone back and forth about what sexual harassment is. They're like, oh, well, you can't flirt with your coworkers at all. A lot of companies have, like, you can't consort with coworkers in any way, shape, or form, regardless of what you want, right? Like, you just can't do it and be an employee of this company. But in reality, like, I think it's taken a lot more seriously, right? Is treated more gravely if a man makes unwanted advances toward a woman, right? If a woman makes unwanted advances towards a man, it's not going to be taken seriously. The man is seen as the threat, right? And there are reasons for that. But the problem is that doesn't really serve the purpose of gender equality very well.
Funneling it towards the app, so you're on your own. And this is where maybe a lot of the resentment comes for incels, because even in recent decades, there used to be more of a clear-cut playbook of how to learn about the dating market. My father always tells me, we used to go to a dance, and you asked a girl to dance, and you asked would she stay on, and it was very simple. There was a clear-cut rule book. There's no such thing like that anymore. And incels, there's extremely high rates of autism in the community. So you can imagine being a frustrated young man with autism trying to learn about the dating market. You go to pickup artists to learn how it works. You try their crude tactics and it doesn't work. So you come to the black and white conclusion, I'm incel. There's actually data to show that there's a direct pipeline of pickup artist forums to incel forums. And I can imagine that for a young man with autism. We could do with making like dating a bit more of a group level, societal, social problem, because people need to set each other up on dates.
I love setting my friends up.
Good for you. Good on you.
But that's because I'm a busybody. I'm like inherently a busybody.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a married couple under my belt. I introduced a couple who are now married.
Good track record. So my own grandfather was a matchmaker.
No
actually,
way.
Yeah, in the west of Ireland. And my father always jokes that there was no incels allowed.
Well, this jackass just got hit by a truck. Not me. Sorry, living with the animals.
Time. He didn't allow it. But there was this kind of social force of connecting people, and even if we think bigger picture ancestrally, over like about 70% of mateships were arranged by your kin. That doesn't happen at all. So this evolutionary novel, big city life.
Just a quick side note. These limited edition wave. No, you get the fuck out of here. You fuck off. You fuck right off. No. No more for you. Back up. Back up. Now you get the broom? No. No more. Back up. No. We're done. Fuck off. Shaka! No. 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 Look at me all strange. So they're Lay's wavy Cuban sandwich flavored chips. They're fucking delicious. They're excellent. I totally, yeah, you know, buy it.
Life, encountering the impression of theoretically unlimited amount of mates, which kind of makes you reluctant to commit to just
You
one.
fuck off away from my doorway. No, I don't care how cute you look. You greedy little fucker, I saw you. Is it you or your friend?
Extreme FOMO.
You're cut off. Don't
The
yawn at
apps
me.
are designed to keep you on the app. Whatever they say about, oh, we're designed
That's
to get you off the app,
bullshit, man.
that's just a bad business model, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of these social forces and this atomization and feeling like you're responsible for it on your own. That you can imagine that being hell for an autistic young man coming to the conclusion he's incel, right?
I mean, I think coming to the role of autism here, I was talking with a friend of mine who's a single straight guy, and he's not an incel, but he was talking about this extreme anxiety that he feels when he perceives women as a potential sexual relationship. And it's an anxiety that he doesn't feel around me because I'm his friend and I'm married, which puts me into the category of human.
Yes. True.
And the thing that I was saying to him, I was like, you know that women are people.
Yeah.
I was like, you know that we're people.
It's not that, like, not all women are people. It's just a sense of anxiety when you think there's a potentiality, like, for the relationship to progress in a certain way. If you don't believe that potentiality exists, then you, like, lose that momentum, right? And you can still be friends with somebody, but your level of interest is obviously going to kind of, like, fall in line with whatever, like, this pursuit you have.
We're people the way you're a person, and, you know, doing this sort of, like, mad dance of, like, ooh, what's going to entice her is just such a...
But when, I mean, in my experience, when you get into a social situation, where, yeah, that, like, your mentality is, like, if I'm going to keep this person around, I have to find some way to impress them, right? And it sounds very juvenile, right? But you can live moment to moment this way in your experience around another person and be like, okay, what's the next thing I can do to keep them in my circle? Whatever that is, that's the next thing I'm going to do, right? And when you do that to such an extent, yeah, it's a major turnoff, but you don't realize that at the time. At the time, all you're thinking is, this thing is getting me attention from this person. I'm going to do the next thing that gets me more attention from this person, right? Because I'm feeding off of that. That's like that's an energy source.
Build on way to come across as like inauthentic or a bit jarring or kind of creepy, and that's gonna be the thing that drives us away. And it's hard because you're asking straight men to do something contradictory, which is if you want to find a potential sexual connection. You have to stop treating every woman like she's a potential sexual connection.
Interesting. So I can just imagine incels listening to this now, and it is going to be flipped as rage fuel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they would see that as that's a privilege that handsome men can do. They can be relaxed and let it happen.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, right? Like, because in the reverse, right? Like, if you were to reverse the roles, and well, okay, no, you can. Like, let's say you can effectively like reverse the situation because women do the same thing to men, except the tactic that they use, right? This is often seen is like the you're too nice with a guy approach, right? Because women will remain friends, close friends with males for a long period of time. They'll go through a number of relationships. They'll vent on this guy as the shoulder to cry on, etc., right? They will use this man as an emotional outlet and say, oh, I wish that my partner was like you, and yet not become emotionally invested in this man, because actually what they want is the dude who they're sort of interested in, but who's empathetic. But the thing that they don't like about him is the fact that he is empathetic. And all of the characteristics of all these other guys that they're going to be seeing are that they lack empathy, are that they're not fucking able to emotionally connect. And the person that they actually emotionally connect with, they claim to not be attracted to, right? So there's like this, but what they expect from men is almost like the opposite. To be emotionally connected, right, while not expecting intimacy, right? So they expect you to hang on in the friend zone and be that guy who might eventually become attractive after, you know, this shit show of you know, dickheads, right? Like, I'll be your friend through this dude and this dude and this dude, and you know, and you. But the guy just kind of has to hang on and sit there and wait, right, to prove his worth, right? Which is bullshit, because he may never actually get that intimacy from the woman. That's a fucking, you know, maybe, you know, there's a chance that maybe you'll get it, right? The expectation is like, oh, that you should just act that way, as if you continue to act that way with all your female friends, eventually one of them will become intimately interested in you. Which doesn't make a fucking degree of sense. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Free and easy about it. And I do
and
think
it makes you think,
kind of,
I mean, the incels are kind of right in that way. The man in this, that women want to have their cake and eat it too. They want, you know, more dudes to be more sensitive and more patient with them while they deal with more you know, unkind, chauvinistic pricks and go through the motions, right? While these dudes who already exist with the qualities that they claim they're seeking are available to them and they have no fucking interest in. Doesn't make any kind of sense.
accurate in a way, like, it doesn't just happen for incels, for unattractive young men, or perhaps even men, more than women might realize. Men have to be a bit more strategic about it. It doesn't really just happen. You kind of have to go out and get it, and you have to overcome the anxiety, you have to go through a lot of rejection, and you kind of, men have the impression, but it's worth it. What's on the other side is worth it, I promise you. But incels come to the conclusion, no, it's not worth it. I don't get enough positive feedback. I try 99 times, fail 99 times. I'm not willing to try 100th time. If they take their mind off it and don't try at all, nothing happens. So again, you can see why they'd be frustrated. But yeah, this is interesting what you said about the opposite sex friendships as well. You might not like a lot of the data about men's motivations for opposite sex friendships.
Well, no, it's not that I think that these things are inherently like desexualized, because actually I think when you're becoming friends with someone,
see, I think this is bullshit. And I think, you know, I have a lot of opposite sex friendships. In fact, sometimes, you know, when I'm like going down the list of, you know, like what I would consider close friendships throughout my life, I feel like I've had more long-term, close, lasting friendships with opposite sex than same sex. Now, I've had more same-sex friends overall, right? But in terms of closeness and me being able to open up to those people and them opening up to me in certain ways, right? It always seemed to be a bit more of a shallow relationship. There's always something transactional there that you don't have with the opposite sex friendships. Now, there might be romantic interest on one end or the other, right? And if it's not reciprocated, that's another kind of complication, right? But if you can work that out through, some way, you still end up with a meaningful friendship, right? And there's not a transactional involvement, right? It's just there's some genuine connection there for whatever reason. Now, with that being said, I think you're more likely to invest. You're going to invest more in a friendship if you do hope that romantic attraction will grow. And I'll say, the longer I maintain certain friendships, regardless of how superficial they were to begin with, eventually, if there's a connection there, there will be some level of romantic attraction. Now, it's not always the kind that would spark into an actual relationship, right? But as you grow to appreciate that person, you can see their value and appreciate them for those qualities. And so say, oh, that's a good, that's something that I would value in a partner, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you want it in them, right? It's just a quality that you can see in them that you can equate to something that would be good in a potential partner. But you don't want to conflate that quality being in them for them being the partner that you're seeking, right? That's where the complication comes in.
There is a kind of desire and a kind of eroticism and going, what is this thing? I feel drawn to you. Where is this going to go?
Yeah.
And that's maybe the bit I'm highlighting, which is when you are making friends with a woman, or anyone's making friends with anyone, there is this sort of like, oh, what is this? Like a sense of magnetism, and you just can't smother it with intention straight away, because that's going to snuff out the little flame.
Yes, I guess that's right. And just kind of on a bigger picture, there is a corniness to pickup artistry and like any kind of male self-development that you attach the goal of achieving romantic success to. But on the other hand, that's so intuitive to men. Like developing yourself and seeking status is largely driven by the prospect of getting sexually selected. That's like, men are insane status drivers for that very reason. But once you attach that goal, make that explicit of, oh, that's why you're doing it, and that might not be conscious for a lot of men, but it's going on. It becomes a little bit almost shrouded in misogynistic. It feels misogynistic. I'm thinking of Barack Obama, actually. He got in trouble in his autobiography. He wrote about reading different types of literature to impress different types of women in his university. He was like reading Marxist literature to impress such a one.
Oh yeah, that totally works on me. My husband's a communist.
No
it
way.
really works.
Okay, very good. But yeah,
I just walked away for 2 seconds and I came back on my husband's a communist, so I love it.
It is intuitive to young men. It's like, oh yeah, developing yourself and kind of being more intentional and trying to become more attractive. So I'm kind of not happy to cede the pickup artist territory to toxic misogynists. I really do think there is space for like a ethical pickup artistry or like education about how you can develop yourself to be a more competent romantic partner, and even at the level of school education. I would think we talk about sex education a lot. We don't talk about pre-sex education, like how to actually become an attractive partner. And you could have interventions in school that are very kind of benign, like, okay, we're going to learn how to make an effective dating app profile. Imagine that would engage students, and you could say, oh, let's get the girl's perspective. And just...
It's strange that, like in this instance, like in the case of sex itself, now you're talking about pre-sex. If you think about it, in all of these instances, not very long ago, these were all things that were taught in the home. They were taught by family members. They were taught by friends. Right? So all these things you would learn about from your parents, from your siblings, from your peers. And more, we are expecting these things to be taught in institutions, in schools and things like that. Or the responsibility is pushed onto other parts of the social network, like churches, right? Churches historically have been one of the places where these things are instituted, right? But it would make more sense, one would think, if you have a functional family unit, right? Like you have a healthy, healthy parents, and their relationship is okay, right? Then they could teach you how a functional relationship works. You would kind of learn by example in that sense, right? And that's less and less often the case. So then there's this need, this outcry for this to be part of the public education, because not everybody has a healthy example of what functioning mates in a household look like, and a big part of that reason is because it's so hard to maintain a family in this society. And I blame capitalism in large part for that.
Thinking of some ideas.
I don't know. I'm so horrified by the apps, and I hated who I was on the apps. I hated the fact I was just swiping past these hopeful faces at the camera. It felt cruel, and I didn't like doing it. I didn't like the way.
Yeah, dating apps are stupid, and judging somebody based on some compulsive selfie they took when they got on there is stupid, and the whole idea is just fucking so. It's so vacuous. There's nothing there. And I feel really bad when I go on Facebook dating and I look at a profile and I see somebody who's obviously invested a really substantial amount of time and energy to actually create a really good profile. Because half the time, my first thought is if they've invested that much energy into a Facebook dating profile, they're probably not worth dating.
I was trying to boil myself down into a kind of commodity, selecting pictures and thinking about what I wrote in a way which was, it was commodifying. And my best friend who's on the apps, she was showing me her profile, and I was like, this is you, and it's also not you.
Okay.
Right? What are you doing on a Sunday morning? She was like, I have a pistachio croissant and I do the NYT crossword. And I was like, you do?
Nobody wants to see what you're doing on a Sunday morning, ever. Unless you're masturbating, maybe, OnlyFans for that.
You do that, but you're also paralyzed with anxiety about work, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But even if you were to write that,
yes,
that would be a form of.
Why would you be paralyzed with anxiety about work on a Sunday morning? And why would you put that factoid on a dating profile? I don't think that's something I'd want to put out.
Humor, which is itself commodified,
Yeah. So the app thing was just an example of how it could be pretty benign. It didn't needn't be descend into toxicity.
I think that's my trigger word is apps. I'm like,
I don't think we're going to get rid of them though. So I think we need to maybe figure out how to.
Apps trigger me too, and not especially in the case of dating because I don't have any dating apps, but just in general, apps on my phone. There's apps on my phone I can't get rid of. They're taking up a bunch of space, and I don't even use them, and it pisses me off. They tell me I have too many apps, but I see people who have way more apps than me, and their fucking storage isn't full. So I'm like, what's going on here? I think it's a conspiracy or something.
Make them work a bit better, or if that is the mating market, right? And I use the term mating market, and I've tried to find alternatives because people really bristle at the commodification of it, but it behaves like a market. People are valued for certain different traits, more or less. They compete in it to be chosen in it. It behaves like a market. And
okay, Jesus, how long have I been doing this? I feel like I'm getting. Oh, this is not okay. No wonder. I was like, this is. Oh, it is. Okay.
Clear. He absolutely knew that. But he wanted me to ask questions of him. He didn't want to just provide a presentation. He wanted it to be more organic And the way that it played out more like a therapy session. In fact, if you are curious as to what I might look like in a therapy session, this might actually kind of look like that. Again, it wasn't therapy, and he was clear about that. He has his own therapist. And also, it's not a full representation of my therapy style. It's just a particular type of therapy session that I might have, maybe like 20%
Are there people in
of
chat? I don't even remember if I looked at chat. Sorry. Nope, nobody in chat. Hey, fair enough. This is standard issue stream.
A session might look like this. So obviously this episode carries a tremendous trigger warning like never before.
Did I see one person in chat? Oh, yeah, but they didn't say anything. So hello.
Person. I've never had an episode, and I really can't think of many things on the internet that could be more triggering than this. Jay, again, he just goes by the name of Jay, he describes in detail his sexual attraction to children, or his emotional attraction to children. And he also describes his own abusive history as when he was a child. So even if you don't have trauma or PTSD about childhood trauma, this would be very hard to listen to. When I was describing this interview to my wife, she doesn't have trauma along these lines, but I could tell, just hearing the topic. So just hearing already what I've talked about could be 100% triggering. And so if you have PTSD, absolutely talk with your therapist and listen with care. Take it in chunks is probably the recommendation, but again, follow your therapist's advice. And even if you don't have traumas, you have to be very careful. And I'm actually going to sprinkle in some breaks throughout this interview so that you can check in with yourself. So
yeah, sometimes shit like this can actually cause trauma, so I don't think they emphasize that enough. You can get traumatized just by listening to fucked up people talk, and that's a real thing.
Before getting into the interview, I have a few things to say. One is that I've treated different types of pedophiles in my career. It's not a specialty of mine, but I have come across clients with this issue. And some of them were very stereotypical. In fact, one of the very first clients I ever worked with was a very stereotypical pedophile in that he fit the profile that our society tends to think of pedophiles. Because there's a wide variety of presentations, but the stereotype is someone who is compulsive and psychopathic, sadistic, someone who doesn't have empathy for anyone, let alone their victims. Someone who, if you don't stop them, they will offend. And I did treat someone like this in my early career, and he was, I'm just going to say it, he was a monster, and he had already abused many people, and I didn't know what to do with him. I was early career and thought it was probably best if he were behind bars for the rest of his life, honestly. But he was rare. He's a rare presentation. Many people who have pedophilia are not like this. They're not compulsive. They're not psychopathic. They're not sadistic. I mean, some are compulsive for sure, but many people who are pedophiles, many people who are attracted to minors do have empathy. They do care about other human beings. They are aware of the problem with their sexual attraction. They realize this in their teens or early adulthood. They suddenly wake up and realize, wait, I think I have something that's different than other people. And then they realize how hindering this will be and how stigmatizing it is and how limiting it is and how destructive it will be. And there's various different reactions to this, but often depression, suicidality, obviously loneliness, ostracization, severe drug abuse from other people because they don't understand. These people are suffering from something, and if we can help them, then we can actually, one, help them, but two, prevent people from being harmed by them. The research shows this. And incidentally, many of the pedophiles that I treated, they never even told me. They had to have been discovered somehow, and then I would find out from that, or they would be discovered and then they would tell me in the next session, there's something I never told you before, because they were ashamed. Even though I am open and welcoming about all sorts of things, clients didn't feel like they could tell me. So it's such a shameful thing in our society. And I think, to some extent for good reason, right? Because children are being abused. So many people, many of you in the listening audience were abused in this way, and you did not deserve that. And it's a huge problem. So I'll say also at the top, and of course you...
Another problem is a lot of people who have these particular sexual deviations have been victims of abuse themselves or were witness to abuse that caused them to have these psychological divergences, right?
Longtime listeners will know this is my take on things, but if you're new to the podcast, you might not know. I will say that absolutely sexual abuse of children is wrong, and it happens a lot, way more often than people imagine. I personally have treated countless victims of sexual abuse, and the trauma and the damage that it does is profound, can last a lifetime, and can cause all sorts of personal and relational and societal ills. It seems silly that I would have to say that, but whenever you bring up any kind of nuanced conversation around sexual abuse or pedophilia, you will be lumped in with people that, there will be people who will lump me in with people that support the abuse of children or minimize it or justify it. Because there's a whole group of people on the internet that want to make it okay, legal, and societally and socially okay for adults and minors to be in a relationship. They have all these excuses and all these ridiculous notions.
Well, and on the other end of that, you have, every other machismo dude on the internet and elsewhere who will just, blanket say that anybody who ever abuses a child should be put to death. Period. End of story. That's it.
In their advocacy for that. So whenever you bring up any kind
generally they apply these statements to men. A lot of the same people will kind of goof it off if like a female teacher has sexual relations with a male student. They'll be like, ha ha, all boys want that. But if a grown man touches a young girl, then kill him. Cut his fucking head off.
Of nuanced or detailed discussion of pedophiles, it is believed that you're supporting the abuse of children. So obviously I'm against that. I just, if you're new to the podcast, that's my take on things, which I'm just going to take a guess and say that 100% of therapists and psychology professors are in that camp, like I am. This episode is important for a number of reasons. We obviously have a goal in our society and in my industry to eliminate or reduce sexual abuse and sexual assault. It's a huge problem. It doesn't get talked about enough. It is continuing to happen. We might be seeing a little bit of reduction over time as we raise awareness, but it's still a rampant problem in our society that's happening behind closed doors. Victims, for the most part, don't feel like they can come forward, or they don't even know that they're entitled to any kind of support. It's happening all the time. It's happening right now in whatever town you're in right now. There's probably dozens of people being assaulted and abused right this very second. It's happening all the time, and it's horrific, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, I think aside from like general ignorance, like the fact of somebody being very young and just feeling powerless, the fact that these things tend to happen within the family, or with people who are close to the family, and usually the people who are being abused probably feel some type of sympathy or affection towards their abuser, right? So they don't understand this kind of conflict of the fact that they're being taken advantage of, but that they do care about the person that's doing the harm.
And obviously the criminals that are doing this, the offenders, are the problem, but our society isn't necessarily helping. And so for me, publishing this interview is in the effort to change society so that we can actually reduce the incidence of abuse of children in this way. Because it's important to have at least one presentation of a pedophile in your mind. When you think about pedophilia, there's a chance that you don't really know the reality of what a pedophile is. Now, this interview with Jay is just one presentation of someone who's attracted to minors. There are many other presentations, but it is one. And in order for us to understand something, we have to listen to those people who have this problem. Also, it's important to have conceptualizations of how pedophilia develops. And in this interview with Jay, I do develop and state my conceptualization as to why his pedophilia developed. It's impossible to know for sure, but it's important to know how this develops, because a lot of people assume that it's just something that people are born with, and certainly some people seem to be. But a lot of people who are attracted to minors, it's conceivable to conceptualize them as having developed it because of environmental factors, relational, experiential factors that they went through as children. So it's important to know that, because if we can know those factors, then we can work to reduce those factors and thus reduce the incidence of people being attracted to minors. I think this interview with Jay is also critical because we need to understand that not all pedophiles are psychopathic and sadistic. Many of them have empathy. It could be argued that most people who are attracted to minors do have empathy. They do not inherently want to assault and harm children. And thus, if we actually reach out to them and invite them to come forward by reducing stigma, by having resources, by educating clinicians so that they don't just reject these individuals, then we can actually intervene early in these individuals' lives. I mean, imagine if we lived in a society that didn't have the stigma around being attracted to children. Now, of course, it's okay to stigmatize abusing children, right? But we stigmatize the whole ball of wax. We stigmatize anyone who just has an attraction to a child and assume that they are an evil monster. And the fact is that most, or at least many, are not. They just have an internal attraction, an internal feeling, an internal thought, and never act on it. So you have many teenagers, young adults who are realizing that they have attraction to children right now. There are many people, especially when you think about around the world, and they also probably believe that there is nowhere to turn. There is no help. There is no one that will listen. There is only ostracization. There is only damage that will happen to them if they admit it to anyone. There are plenty of clinicians who are like this too, who just don't know better and will reject a client because they admit this, or even report them to the police or something like this. I don't know the rate of that, but I've heard of such things. And this is a huge problem. If we're interested in actually practically reducing the harm to children, then all of us should be actively trying to reduce the stigma and reduce the ostracization such that these individuals will come forward and we can actually help them to prevent themselves from harming children. There are probably millions of young adults who know that they're attracted to children and they don't want to harm children. And if they only had someone in their corner, if they only had people to help them, a support system that could be there for them so that they could help. It's similar, think of it like an addiction, right? Imagine if we ostracize everyone who had an addiction to alcohol and we just thought of them as evil, evil, evil monsters. Well, alcoholism would get worse on this planet, right? And the harm of alcoholism would get worse. Drunk driving, anger issues, health issues, all of that would get worse because we are putting up a wall and saying, you are evil, we hate you, you are irredeemable, you need to die, or someone needs to kill you, or someone needs to put you in jail. Even before you've done anything criminal, you just have this impulse inside of you that you don't have any control over. And so with alcoholism, we don't do that because that's illogical and not science-based. It's science-based to actually reduce stigma so that they can come forward, we can help them and mitigate the damage to themselves and society and their family. In the same way, we need to do that with people who are attracted to children, pedophiles. We need to reduce stigma, invite them in, talk with them, help them, stop them. Now, I'll have another obvious thing that I'll say here is that people who abuse children don't necessarily deserve any kind of compassion or goodwill. I'm not saying that we're supposed to have compassion or goodwill or have open arms to individuals who have abused children. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if we're going to actually approach this in a sane, rational, practical way, we have to actually create an environment where they can come forward. Now, for the sake of argument, let's say in my future world where we don't have stigma, someone comes forward as a minor attracted person and actually admits that they have abused children. They probably need to serve time. They probably need to be disciplined by the law. So I'm not saying that these individuals should be let off the hook for the damage that they might have done. I'm saying that we need to not have a black and white attitude about this. And it's one of those issues that our society is really in the dark ages. There's a number of things that we've actually progressed on, LGBTQ rights, feminism, this kind of thing. But when it comes to this, we are really stuck in the dark ages. We barely even talk about it, let alone have any kind of rational approach to actually trying to address the problem. And I've been advocating.
Where am I? This is just... I have no idea how I even got to this. Okay, we'll just... that's fine. Can we... Yeah, we'll just go back now.
Most stop it. Most porns are based off other movies. Where are the metas?
Route 856.
Three's Company was a good porno.
What do you need it for? What do you need it for?
Good there, right there.
Hi. I'm looking for the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. I heard you guys have I called ahead. You guys have 2 in stock, I think.
Okay.
Ray-Ban, that's
I
fancy.
think we have 2 of this shape in stock. Did you know which one you were looking for?
I think that guy answered the phone. Okay. There was pink and then there was matte gray, and they were 2 transitions. So if I could try those on, that would be great.
I think they're the Skylar.
Okay, yeah, I think they are the Skylar.
Take it easy. Enjoy those. I appreciate it.
She's so me. Yeah, I'm getting the Ray-Ban Metas.
Pink street. I can't open these unfortunately, but we do have the pink one. Okay.
And the black is just that's the black.
So okay, yeah, these are the 2 that we have.
So this is it's not a transition, it's just gonna be like
That's
this.
just gonna be that pink gradient.
Alright.
And then this one transitions to a dark gray, I guess.
Okay. Alright, thank you. I'm just gonna try that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, then we can see if there's anything available to order.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
The dress is very hippie chick, like you're going to Coachella or something.
So we have two options. One sec.
This is Grace's First Amendment audit. She's now doxing everybody in the mall.
So, nice dress. Thank you, Wilmar. Thank you. Okay, so we have two options. One is this, which is like a, it looks gray on the camera, but it's pink. It's like a light pink. And it has these pink transition shades. And then we also have this one. These are the two that I can pick up in store today. Do my eyebrows look bushy? So then the other option is this.
Hey, your
and
eyebrows look a little bit bushy, and I think you're growing a mustache.
these are both the Ray-Ban Metas, which means you can. Gray's getting sunglasses because her future is so bright. Slay! This is my task right now. So these are the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. I feel like a real influencer right now. And so basically when you put them on, I don't want to test them quite yet, but they have cameras right here.
Fucking Christ, this is so boring.
Great. Let me... Low key.
She's still in the fucking store. Typical chick, dude.
Welcome. Let her on in this motherfucker.
What the fuck is she doing? So at some point here, she's gonna like
What are they gonna do?
go on Jim Bob's panel or something, I guess.
Because it was a
But it's okay.
Well, you should be able to hear me now. No, the inhaler is naproxen mist or something like that. It's not a real inhaler.
You're breathing really heavily, Grace. You sound like worse than me. And I'm a 35-year-old dude. I've been chain smoking like as long as you've been alive.
Primatine mist. It's not real albuterol. The RV bed where the magic happens. Oh, I was gonna open the back. Hang on. Oh, yeah. Oh. Here we go.
See, I have to do to get some quality content around here.
Don't put it in my
OnlyFans, bitches.
titles, yeah. This isn't picking up. Hold on. God.
Did you have her credit card in the back of the phone? I wonder if you can catch some numbers off that.
Ran into.
I love it when
The
people
cabinet-
do that. I'm just like, oh yeah.
Just pop up out of
They were worried about pickpockets back in the day.
nowhere. Grace is kind of redundant, honestly. You're just
A white church.
This is a different channel. At some point here, she was watching earlier. There it is. Yeah, she gets in the gym club.
You guys should join. See if you could try to get me in. You should join their chat. Let's see. Jim Bob's stream. Join their chat and just ask if he can pop me up. But be nice, though. Be nice. Just say, like, Grace is backstage.
I'm guessing Jim Bob's going to decline. He's too busy fucking arguing with Cap the Desk in the side
She just
chat.
wants to say hi.
Which is funny because he acts like he's not worthy of his argumentation, but he addresses, I think, every comment that he makes there.
Or, you know what I mean? Don't be like, put Thorpe up! Because they'll just ban you. Maybe if he sees enough people in chat, he'll put me up. He talks like Patrick Stewart, a little bit. It's not a fake accent. I thought it was a fake accent at first, but it's his real accent. For some reason. I don't know how a Serbian guy who learns English ends up talking like that, but... Oh, Steven's in there. Steven!
Twice.
We're not
We scienced him.
Democrats here.
Yeah, we scienced him off, yeah.
I'm
George says no. Okay.
Oh, they're asking
There's
about
a
if I'm
chair,
gonna come
so,
in.
Dustin says no. Seems like most of the people with memberships are
Pretty
saying
even
no.
right now.
It's pretty even. Why not? Could be entertaining. Okay,
I think they're gonna
I
put me on.
guess.
We spent all of this time reeling against democracy.
Yeah, and now here we are. All right, so it is.
Hi.
What's going on?
Thank you for putting me up. I just wanted to say hi again. I missed you guys.
How's it going? Are those real glasses?
They're Meta glasses. I just got them today. Do you like them?
Well, as long
What's
as
a
they're
Meta
real
glass?
and you need them, yeah.
I need them to live stream.
Oh, okay, got it.
They're posh. They're like,
Meta.
yeah, you can.
Meta,
hear
the
stuff.
company, I thought they were like Meta. You know,
Facebook.
like-
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought medical, like meta, like it was like like. It was
Oh
some sort
no.
Oh.
I'm in
See,
the metaverse. I'm linked into Mark Zuckerberg right
Wait,
now.
so what
He's
do
in
you
my
see
ear.
right now? But no, not joking. What do those do for you?
They're not turned on, but it's not like the Apple Vision Pro. You don't see anything different,
Oh.
but you can record videos,
Oh.
take pictures, and live stream through the glasses. And you can also like hear music and take phone calls and stuff like that.
Okay, but if you're live streaming through the glasses, they see what you see?
Yeah. So like direct POV, like exactly
Okay, so
what
do they
you see.
see a computer then?
If I was live streaming right now from these,
Yeah.
which I'm not, they
Yeah.
would see my computer and everything
Oh, okay.
right in front of me.
So it's just like walking for POV perspective live streaming.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
you're
And
wearing them to be a nerd right now?
I'm just trying out this style. I think it's cute. I will gift my. No, wait! I'll be entertaining.
Posh is calling her a nerd. She just got totally turned on by
Okay,
that.
wait. Hang on.
How about more than that?
I wanted to ask Posh. Posh, do you remember when my dad was first talking to you that we were briefly engaged to be married?
Yeah.
No.
He was trying to line that up, I know.
Oh, that's amazing.
Do you remember that? You don't remember that at all?
I remember lots of things being mentioned in that direction. I've never accepted, and I'm against interreligious marriage, I have to say.
Oh, it's the religion.
Oh, snap.
It's not the looks. Because I just was like, I was always curious, like, why you never really took up that offer. Not even engagement necessarily, just like, get to know me.
It might just be the fact that you're kind of a fucking kooky bitch who's arranged by the internet. I don't know. I can't impersonate the guy.
You have no idea how wrong the tree you're climbing up is.
I'm sorry, do you have a girlfriend?
He almost sounds like he's trying to do like Ryan Roger F.A. I think I'm mispronouncing his name, but yeah, it's very much a proper Englishman.
I like your accent, it's charming. You're charming.
Thank you very much.
Are you
She was just making fun of you backstage like 5 minutes ago.
are you single?
This is not a dating program, Grace.
Yes, I am.
Jim Bob, intervene.
Jim Bob, what do you think? Do you think maybe Posh should get to know me a little bit?
Why would he have thoughts on me being single? He's married.
Well, no, he knows you, is what I'm saying. He knows you, and he knows the kind of girl I am, and like whether it'd be a good fit.
Yeah, you don't stand a chance.
Why?
You're not genuinely interested. Come on.
Not.
Well, your life is a mess. You're not fit to be a mother yet. Relationship with your father.
I'm aware of.
In Serbia. You're in a camp. You're in a meth camp somewhere in the woods. He's in Serbia.
A meth camp somewhere in the woods. It does kind of look that way, huh?
You're trying to be the
I
breadwinner.
hate to fucking agree with Jim Bob here. Okay.
In it.
Back
It
on
behaves
topic.
like a
Get
market,
back on
and
topic, you monkey.
I'm at a loss for any better term. But my main point there was, I think we needn't let self-development for men with the goal of being a better partner and achieving romantic success automatically equate to misogyny. Because if you don't have anything to say on that very important thing to young men, Andrew Tate has plenty.
We got to skip back here. We were way ahead of this. Yeah, back here.
And they will flock to him, right? So if you have to provide some sort of alternative.
Andrew Tate for me is so funny because he's held up as this image of what it means to be like a sexually successful man. And to me, I mean, going back to this idea of what is being modeled as an aspirational kind of relationship, and for me, it's less about going from promiscuity, short-term mating towards marriage and kids, and it's much more about things like commitment, seriousness, lack of disposability, not treating people as disposable, not being treated like you're disposable. And one of the things that comes up a lot on my podcast with Moya is the difference in disposition when you're early in a relationship versus when you've been together a few years. So
Oh, hey Todd. Chat lurking, good to see you. Yeah, back on some of the same stuff. I did some different stuff. I got kind of sidetracked there a bit, but we're back into this install video now.
at the start of my relationship with my partner, there was an element of me introducing an adversarial logic where I said, well, here are my standards and you've got to meet them, otherwise I'm out. And that was because I dealt with an awful lot of time wasters before. So I was like, these are the things that are important to me.
Yeah.
I'm dating for these things, and if they're not happening, I'm not dating. Now, we've been together 6 years, we're married, it's a lot more relational. And so it's about these sort of negotiations between our needs. There's a sort of temporal consideration involved. So you're going through a hard time, I'm going to cut you some slack. You're going to cut me some slack. I'm going through a hard time. It's a different logic. The thing which is absent from both the beginning and the end is this idea of a transactional relationship. And it seems to me that on the internet, whether it's incel culture or like pickup artists, or whether it's like kind of women on TikTok talking about like soft life or like, you know, my love language is gifts, it's so transactional and it's poisoning everyone's brain.
Yeah, but
yeah, I've had women tell me like their love language is food, which I was like, okay, that's cool, so you can cook. And I don't know what that means. I had another woman recently, I don't remember what it was, but basically she gave me like one of the roughest massages I've ever had in my life, and it was great. And that was her love language. And I was like, okay, so you're gonna like attempt to beat the shit out of me and make me feel really good about it. Like, you know, yeah.
Again, I come back to it, like, unfortunately, and you might bristle at this, but like, mating is to a large extent transactional. You do have to offer benefit and make trade-offs with, you know, people value different traits, and, you know, you have to be able to demonstrate them. And that's why I think this vision changing of how do you teach young men to be someone that has lots to offer to a relationship? And that could be including of the ability to build healthy relationships like you just described with your partner.
Let's not go too far.
Okay, we've got costs as well. But no, that idea of like educate men, it's like, here's how you provide value, like be a high value man. That's what like pickup artists talk about. But
don't educate them, subjugate them.
They're just describing something very negative. Like you could actually have that conversation and say, here's how you become
knowledge is sin.
A guy who a lot of women would like as a husband. That seems like a lot more.
But I guess I object to that being called transactional, because I don't think that there are these like currencies that he possessed and I possess. That's one way of looking at it, and I think it would be so flattening of our dynamic. Right?
I think that's interesting because I have a pet hypothesis that the ultimate form of like mate retention, of kind of securing your relationship, feeling irreplaceable.
You just call it mate retention?
Is the idiosyncrasy. So like that, you know, we're weird, but it
words
in a very unique way that you could only ever get with me, and that's kind of how you.
I guess the thing that I would say is that rather than it being this like, you've got this currency, I've got this currency, and I'm sure that there are ways in which you could look at the relationship like that. But the way we would articulate it to each other, and what I believe to be true, it might be horseshit, what I believe to be true, is that it's a kind of like eudaimonia or flourishing, that we are like partners in helping each other flourish and be better in the world, better to each other, better to our family.
Yeah, like grow together type of shit, yeah.
That's our project. Yeah. And that's not...
Wow, that's amazing. But how can you do that? Like one of the things that I was looking at, like when I was looking at that movie I was watching or whatever, like there's a great line in there where the chick says to the main character, and she's like she's the competitor in the film, right? It's like a romance film, and like she rejected him, but he's with the other girl, and now she tries to get him back, and he basically what she says was like, oh, well, you never had a chance to develop a deeper connection with me because I didn't, like basically I blocked it, like I get, and the women will do that. They'll like preemptively make it so that you can't get in. Like there's like a particular key and you've got to like guess the right combination, but you've got to be like some kind of locksmith or something, and it's a fucking impossible standard, and women do that shit all the time. And like, I don't know, like at least dudes more often than not in those situations, like in my experience, they're actually going to be like somewhat genuine. Like, to an extent that is almost asinine, right? Like there you can be like, asinine about it for sure. But I mean, for somebody to say, well, like I would never even open the door a crack. You know what I mean? Like, how can you say you honestly gave the time of day to that person? Like, really? Like, it would be more humane in that situation to just reject somebody outright. Be like, you know what? I'm not going to give you the time of day. And just tell them that outright. Then they'll, like, make them figure it out. Like, fake it. Or they're like, well, take a hint,
About, like, you do this, I do this, like, and one's conditional on the other.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've evolved to kind of almost this oneness of seeing yourself as an entity in and of itself with shared goals, and that seems healthy.
But that's what I would be saying to people as, like, a model of a relationship has to move away from transactionality.
Sure, I agree, but I think there's things...
And that's exactly what I was saying earlier. It's, I think, Ash and I are on...
That if your husband starts exhibiting negative traits, you suddenly lose interest in him. You quite rightly. Like if he suddenly became extremely lazy, any amount of things. You can imagine why you might say, hold on, you're not actually living up to your end of the bargain. But I guess it's just
Well, there's two aspects of this, right? Because there's like basic survival. You need to be able to survive. And then you want to flourish. Since you were saying that earlier, are we going to flourish together? Is this going to be something that's like reciprocal in a way where both of us are like thriving off of this? It's like one person sucking the other person for some kind of like resource, some like, and that's the transactional part. It's not like, okay, because there's different aspects of this, because I've even gotten this out of friendships. I got this out of friendship where I wasn't really getting anything out of the deal except for kind of maintaining a relationship with this person and being able to be there, right? But for me, it kept me, by being there, maintaining that relationship, it prohibited me from doing other self-destructive behaviors, so that's somewhat transactional, but it's still mutually beneficial, right? But it's not to be misconstrued with like what a romance should be. That's not the same thing, right?
Bristling at the transactional nature of it, I guess. But I just ultimately think that you can learn about this stuff. I don't think like the dating market is as opaque as people kind of suggest. That really doesn't sit right with me when people kind of like. I just wonder when people bristle so much at the term mating market. I always wonder how are they making their own mating decisions? Like completely arbitrarily? No, they have criteria that they value more or less, and they're looking for certain qualities. So yeah, I just ultimately I have this big belief that we can save pickup artistry from the toxic kind of world it's descended into, and I think that's important to do, because if you don't, others will.
I guess I just think dating can be more or less marketized, and the advice that I often give to my friends who are single is get off the apps, develop your social milieu, do more things, bring yourself more into connection with a kind of community, and you'll have different kinds of relationships. You'll be making judgments based on different things, and you'll be judged on different things.
Yeah.
And you'll be treated as less disposable.
I think that's important, yes, and cultivating a kind of a broader social milieu, definitely. But I'm reluctant to kind of let go of the app. So I think of a former colleague I had in my previous work, and she was desperate to meet someone, but she would work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, all day, and then go home on the train and sleep, and come to work again. And she was saying, I will not go on the apps. And I'm like, where are you going to meet someone? On the train? Like, that's your life. Like, literally, you're at work, you're on the train, or you're asleep. So, you know, it's like it or lump it, the apps are kind of here to stay. I think we need to learn how to leverage them better. And yeah, I mean, the incentive structure of the apps is kind of maybe wrong as well.
There's an alienating experience. The swiping, the blue screens.
There could be things like a limit on how many swipes you get to do. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know how I'd incentivize them better.
But like, I don't know. If...
my experience on a lot of them, it's you know, my understanding is like for the low tier, it's like there's higher paid services or whatever, which I haven't tried, but like the basic ones, like is generally free or extremely cheap for women. And then for men, like you have to pay per conversation. So you can't even start a conversation on a lot of these apps like without paying a minimum fee. But you can view profiles, so it gives you the incentive. You're like, oh, I want to hit this chick up, so I'm going to give them some money. But you have no way of knowing whether or not you're ever going to get a response. Like there's no, like nothing, obviously nothing is guaranteed. So again, it's just putting a hook on you. Be like, oh, well, maybe you'll get to talk to this chick, you know, give us X amount of dollars per month, and we'll let you try it, you know. Where in any other context, you could just try to hit on that chick and get rejected or no. But now I got to pay to get rejected, which, how is that? That doesn't compute.
You've had this experience in your own life, but for me, this is also the difference between like a real life space and the apps, right? When I was on the apps, I was like swiping by myself. I felt depressed. I felt like I was doing a depressing activity, and I felt very alienated. I felt alienated from my own desire because I was like, I'm just seeing pictures. This is not like I'm not attracted to pictures.
Women's desire is very different. The men's very, very visual, so it's not an uncomfortable experience seeing hundreds of pretty women on an app. Isn't like.
Well, I think maybe it would be uncomfortable if you think like this is a catalogue of things I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that earlier too, like how porn has like grown so much, like even since I was young, like the way that porn was. I mean, and they still had like 1-900 call-in lines. When I was a kid, you could call like a 900 number and get, you know, like a part-time sex operator on the phone, and they'd be trying to get you to enter a credit card number, but they'd play with you a little bit, you know, before you get to the paywall, and they'd be like, oh, well, you can put your credit card information. And we were like, you know, 10 or something. But I remember those calls. Like, that shit existed in the 90s, you know, so we're not that far removed from that. And now it's like you can find just porn on demand everywhere. Like, there's no... Like, yeah, why would you pay for porn? Like, literally every fetish and crazy shit you can imagine is available for free online. There's just thousands and thousands and thousands of videos. It's crazy. We're so over inundated with porn. And you got OnlyFans. If you want to get a little more personal, like, you can get in with some of these Instagram models, like the whatever girls or whatever. You just, you know, give them like, you know, $6 a month or something and fucking look at their asshole or whatever, if that's what you're into, right? Like, it's crazy that this is currency. It's just like, I could just take a picture of my butthole and post it on the internet and somebody will inevitably buy it. It's amazing.
Right, and if you were getting no positive feedback at all, and there is evidence that excessive swiping is bad for mental health, and that incels uniquely struggle on the apps.
Yeah.
But again, I think men could all probably benefit from some coaching on how to make a better app profile. I think men are uniquely bad at it, according to my female friends anyway, they say.
Yeah, like lit from behind, sunglasses on. It's
yeah,
like...
and interestingly, sharing too much information from my own life now, but several dates I've been on have said, oh, you're way nicer in real life than on the app. You need to change. And I'm like, oh, damn, I thought I was doing pretty good.
I don't know.
I study this stuff for a living.
Like, how can you boil down a personality on the app? But I think, like, also separately is that, like, apps, you're on the app when you're by yourself, right? So, like, it's an isolating experience. Yes. Whereas I remember, this was like 10 years ago now, I was fresh out of a breakup and I was out at a bar with some friends. And there was this dude who I thought was like, mega hot, and I remember being like, oh my god, I've just forgotten how to do this because I'm fresh out of a breakup. And so my male best friend like coached me through. He was like, you're gonna do this. You're gonna like, he's gonna go out for a cigarette. Like, and it went down exactly how he said it was gonna go down.
I bet.
It went in one sense really well. In another sense, it went really badly because the dude, like, after we'd been flirting, like, exchanged numbers, he was like, by the way, I'm here with my girlfriend.
No.
And I was like, what the fuck, man?
So you touch on something very important. So I think a flipping of this gender norm of women still very much want to be pursued rather than having to pursue. You may be a bit of an exception to that, and it sounds like you were agentic, and I think that's great because it will invariably go well for a woman. So honestly, the worst you will get is a polite rejection and a rain check from a guy who has a girlfriend or something. Whereas men, if they approach a woman, it's often uncomfortable for the woman. They feel obliged to give too polite of a rejection, which men perceive as still interested. So it's all this massive failure.
Yeah, unless you pull the taser on them, they're like, I'm not hearing a no.
Right, exactly. And that's literally an evolved propensity for men to have an over-perception bias. Our ancestors weren't the ones who kind of thought, oh, I'm not sure she's interested. They were the ones who saw a smile and thought, she's interested, right? It's a massive finding that men over-perceive sexual interest.
We're going to talk about whether this is evolutionary or not in a second.
Okay, interesting. But anyway, so I think the flipping of it, if we could encourage women to be more agentic about seeking out relationships that they want, that would be better, because it would be less uncomfortable for everyone. Also, women have a lot of higher of sexual regret than men. Men regret the sexual opportunities they missed, whereas women often regret the sexual opportunities they were convinced into, except when they initiate them themselves. There's virtually no sexual regret then. So it would be a prophylactic against a lot of negative societal things, like women's discomfort, women's fear, this kind of failure of cross-sex mind reading signals of, and it's a very dark finding as well, but a lot of women do purport to have engaged in, what's it called?
It's funny because both of my children's moms I was introduced to by good friends of mine, and both of them eventually expressed regret for introducing me to those women down the road in different contexts, right? Like they're like years removed from each other, and they didn't really know each other. Well, they knew each other, but not like, they weren't, buds. But I was friends with both of them, and both of them introduced me to my children's mom, and both at some point basically said, oh, I didn't think you were going to end up having kids with her.
Token resistance, where there's a viral video right now actually about this girl who said, oh, I was on a date with this guy and brought him back and said, I'm not going to sleep with you, And he just followed me and respected my boundaries, and I wonder, is he gay? And it's like, oh god, that to me is so corrosive, terribly toxic thing to make a bit fun. But
so I do think there is such a thing as toxic femininity, right? I think that exists. And I think that how we as human beings internalize and make sense of all the really contradictory messages we get about gender and how you're supposed to perform your gender and how you're supposed to almost maximize your gender. No wonder it results in fucked up behaviors, because it's a fucked up set of messages that we're getting. That's the first thing. But the second thing about, what do women have to fear from being agentic? We have to fear rape and murder. And that might be overly exaggerated in terms of how much it looms in our heads. But I was taught about sexual violence from before I can even remember being taught about it.
Yes.
And that being something which conditions my behavior. It's not just about fear of rejection, of course that's in there. It's what if I make the wrong choice?
Yes.
And this is why, coming back to, is this a sort of evolutionarily encoded thing, or whether it's culture? It's that one, I think culture's so strong, I don't know how to separate myself from it and go, well, this is a biological response and this is a cultural one, right? I think these...
They need to be different, by the way. Culture is a biological output produced by humans with brains. Culture doesn't descend upon humans from... It's not a magic.
It's not, right? It's, there's social and cultural reproduction, right? Which is connected to biological reproduction, but it's not the exact same thing. I come back to something which Esther Perel said, which is, if the costs for men and women were the same, right, maybe you would see similar behaviors rather than really different ones. But my husband has never had to fear that he will be raped by someone who he goes home with in a way that me and my female friends have to.
Totally right, and that you kind of said very perfectly. That's exactly where we expect to see psychological sex differences between men and women, is where there's fundamental biological differences. So given the stark asymmetries in risk of sexual violence, how costly sex is, it would be remarkable if evolution didn't also give us psychology to attend to those differences. So women fear sexual violence way more than men because it's way more costly and it's way more of a threat to them. So that evolution not giving us psychological differences to attend to those reproductive or biological differences would be like evolution giving us a body for bipedal locomotion but no inclination to walk. It just wouldn't happen. You get
all right. We'll detour and come back. Detour, come back. Jesus. Look at that fucking outfit. Fucking
it looked
horrible.
Like somebody took a giant shit in my living room.
That is what it looked like. Yeah, exactly.
Hair from her over grooming, and I feel really bad that I might be causing my cat stress because she's worried about me.
There'd be more.
Out of context clips brought to you by Ranting Monkey.
Really trying to address the problem, and I've been advocating for this movement for years. Not only in my practice and as a professor, but on this podcast, I've been talking about it for years. For example, 5 years ago, we had an episode in which I talked about paraphilias and sexual fetishes, and part of that was talking about pedophilia. Also, 5 years ago, we had an episode on pedophilia as a sexual orientation. And if you're not familiar, for many people who are non-offending minor attracted persons or pedophiles, non-offending pedophiles, they consider it a sexual orientation. Now, that's very offensive to some people because to some people, it sounds like pedophiles, offending pedophiles, are trying to normalize their attraction to children. Because normally when we're talking about sexual orientation, we're talking about heterosexuality, bisexuality, homosexuality. And we understand that these are normal human variants and totally okay. Everything's fine with those sexual orientations. And when you add in pedophilia, it sounds like people are trying to say, hey, this is normal, it's okay, let's add it to LGBTQP for pedophilia. And that's not what the rational people within the minor attracted persons community are saying. What they're saying is they just want it to be recognized that they don't have a choice in their orientation. They're not saying it's okay to be with children, but they're saying that this isn't like a choice that they wake up with. So I don't know where I stand on calling pedophilia a sexual orientation. It doesn't really matter to me, honestly. I just want people to recognize that a lot of people are suffering from this problem. I mean, just imagine for yourself, you wake up tomorrow and suddenly...
Well, yeah, it's like the whole, like, the child sex robots argument. Like, are you against child sex robots?
You have no attraction to adults.
Like, if they're, like, robotic children that, you know, like, pedophiles they can have sex with, but they're, like, you know, like, fully automated machines. They're not people.
Have only sexual attraction to children. Children turn you on, and adults do not turn you on. Just imagine how distressing that would be for you. I mean, it would just ruin your life in all sorts of ways. I mean, even if there isn't any ostracization and stigma in society, you can never have sexual gratification. You can never have a relationship that is satisfying to you in that deep way. It really is a condition that people suffer from, right? 3 years ago in 2019, someone emailed in and told a story about how they were a non-offending pedophile, and we actually read that email on the air. I think it was with Umberto, and it's called "Non-Offending Pedophile Tells a Story." So this episode is kind of along those lines, but instead of it being an email that I read, it's actual interview with the individual. This episode, the interview was so good, I thought, and so interesting to me, and so really personally groundbreaking. I mean, there's so many things in this interview that I just thought, whoa, like I could feel my brain changing as I'm listening to him. And it reminded me of two other...
That's a little distressing, but okay.
...episodes that I've done. There was an episode 3 years ago, 2019, called He Survived Sex Trafficking and Found Wisdom. This episode, I interviewed a man who was a really severe victim of sex trafficking as a child. Of course, we all understand that sex trafficking is happening, sexual abuse happens, but when you hear in detail someone's description, it really provides so much more depth and so much more understanding for what is happening. So again, that episode is called He Survived Sex Trafficking and Found Wisdom. And another episode more recently, just this year in 2022, called This Interview Deepened That for me personally. So again, massive trigger warning, no joke. Even if you don't have trauma, but particularly if you have trauma, even if you feel like you've recovered from your childhood sexual trauma, this episode could be highly triggering. Honestly,
Alright, well, I want to check something else out real quick. I want to see if we're going to get in trouble for this. Because there's something else I was talking about yesterday. And I'm just going to see what happens if I do this. I am a fan of the King Stephen. Yep, that all looks right. Where's my... This is not my library. Where are my books? You fucking bitch. You fucking motherfucker. My books? It's... Okay, there we go. Where in here? No, further back.
China. What the fuck is it? Where the... Oh, there it is. Alright, so I don't know if many have taken down for this or not. We'll find out here shortly. Right. So this is where I got this from, and there is a, if I can find chapters somehow. I don't remember how to do any of this shit. Every time I struggle with this these days. Somewhere near here, there's a list of chapters. There it is. And then there is a particular debate. Perfect. So yeah, it's read by the narrator here, and and so this I think is a great example of a formal debate. If you can just, I'm gonna speed it up a little bit, and we'll check this out. So note, they're right away defining their positions in simple terms, right? Like, so, for the purpose of this debate, Russell's accepted this definition of God as a personal, right? So there's A, the definition of the God, and B, Russell is agnostic to the position, right? So he's saying, I can't disprove it, you need to prove it to me. That's what agnosticism means. Okay, so right here, we already have a contention. So, moral argument be placed separately from the argument for the existence of the deity. Logically. Name that argument, folks. Okay. Right, so that's what I'm talking about. Some shit. Anyway. I made reference to it, so I thought I'd share it. Let's see what's going on over here. News Units Live. Let's see what they're talking about.
Noise. You know? I don't know. I'd rather put the scripture up on the screen. I'll do that, I guess. Try to keep it simple. What do I got up here? 1 Corinthians? Because I was looking at that verse.
First Corinthians.
Was reading today.
We hear an awful lot about 1 Corinthians. I don't often read from the Corinthians.
And over again 500 times.
I think they were stupid people. And right. I'm joking. I don't actually know anything about the Corinthians.
I was outside working by the time you guys listened to it 10 times all day long. All right. 1 Corinthians. Chapter 1. Paul, called to be an apostle of Jesus Christ through the will of God, and Sosthenes, our brother. That's that guy that was beaten up in Acts. Sosthenes. They beat him.
He was beaten up in Acts?
He got a beating one day. Unto the church of God which is at Corinth, to them that are sanctified
Where
in
was
Christ.
Corinth? Geographically speaking.
Jesus. Are you sanctified or justified? See, I like to ask these questions because Christians.
I am. Oh, it's a Nine Inch Nails song. That's what I'm thinking of.
Don't know the answers. They all know all of everything about everything, but they don't know nothing. Called to be saints. How come Paul didn't say to them that are justified? You have to be justified before you're sanctified.
I am purified. That's a good song.
Or do you become saint? See, that's another thing. You people, I should stop right there. Come on in here, fuckheads. Are you justified first and then sanctified, or are you sanctified first and then justified, or both together?
Both together.
Which is it? Oh, that's right. Faith plus nothing equals salvation. Faith, period. That's it. That's it. Got a one-page Bible. Well, actually a two-page Bible. You got the title page. It says the Bible. And then you got, what's the other thing? Just plain faith. That's it. This is your Bible. The Bible. On the cover page will say the Bible, and then you turn the page, it says faith, period. That's it. It's over. Faith plus nothing.
That's
faith
the whole book right there.
Plus nothing equals
Fuck, they put a lot of words together to construe that sentence.
salvation. That's all you need is faith, period. You don't need any explanations, nothing else. Nothing! What the hell do you think nothing is? If you're going to tell me faith plus nothing equals salvation, then don't give me something to go with it. Because it's nothing. I know what nothing is. It's nothing. Have you ever seen nothing? Or is there always something there? There's always something in there. Yeah.
Unless you're fucking blind, Helen Keller.
Come on, come and explain nothing to me. Somebody explain it. Nothing burger or whatever. You're all so fucking stupid. I'm sick of everything, man. Really, I just want to work on my yard.
I deeply relate to this guy right now.
I give a fuck about anything else. I don't care about nothing.
I sympathize. I feel genuine human sympathy.
Nothing anymore. I don't. Well, I say I don't want to be a Christian. I'm not a Christian. But even more, I want to be I want to make sure I'm less of a Christian every day. Less about Christianity every day. Less of the mental side today. Less of the doctrines of devils and seducing spirits.
You can just stop believing all of it because it's all bullshit.
The better. The less the better.
It is a choice. Like, at the end of the day, you're like choosing to believe it's a magical fairy tale bullshit that you know is not real.
The less of Christianity and the more of the Holy Bible authorized version, only the better. Now, you can do what you want. That's just for me. You know, you do what you want. That's what I'm going to do. I'm sore. Oh, my sore, my whole body.
The Bible talks about people talking to snakes and coming back from the dead and receiving orders from a magical man in the sky, and none of that shit is real.
Yeah, tomorrow, probably the next 10 days. Oh, is it sore? Oh, it's good. You know, I could use a good woman to rub me down nice. You know.
Let's take a turn for the shittiest. Okay, well, good luck with that, and we'll
Possible or insane. Like, do a deep dive on it, you'll see.
Right. No, I agree. So here's the thing. I agree with you that, like, it has to be very specific. That's why we have a Goldilocks zone, right? Because there has to be a very specific amount of information. Everything has to be placed just right for life to form. And here's the thing. Why all the excess bodies? Why all the excess planets with no life? Why
That's
so
a good
much?
question.
Why
Well,
beyond
that's a good question.
everything that we can see? Because to me,
Well-
that would seem that we have some sort of survivor's bias.
Well, here's the thing. I just heard, I'm chewing my way through the source material on this speech by a fellow named, I think, Hugh Ross. He's a PhD astrophysicist out of Canada.
Whoa.
And
Hugh Ross. Let me look him up. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on. I thought I was muted, Iconoclast. My apologies.
No, you're good. He makes a really compelling case for the answer to that exact question, right? So if the universe wasn't the specific size that it is, if it didn't have the amount of material matter that it has in it, then gravity would have functioned differently. The Big Bang either would have exploded to the point where it pushed things to gravity. If it didn't have enough mass, then it would have, after the inflation, yeah, that's the right word. After the inflation, gravity wouldn't have been strong.
Oh, it's not live anymore. Okay, let's go back. Just kind of making sure we're well-rounded here. You know, gotta be well-rounded.
Be the breadwinner, you know. You're trying to be a leader among people.
I definitely don't want to be square or triangular because those are just odd shapes. I'd rather be circular.
That's just already.
Even if it's a disc shape.
Really
That's a
not.
no-no.
When have I ever said I'm a leader of anything?
Well, I mean, you're quite capable of settling down and being a mother at this point, but you're going to choose to pursue notoriety through the YouTubes instead.
She's got to work on the facial hair and you know, all that first. I mean, you know, before she can.
Well, that's why I'm here. I'm just like, I'm looking for love. I'm open to it.
On the internet?
Bullshit.
I mean,
I call bullshit.
Where am I supposed to go? Posh is like, have you seen the average people at the
Not
bar?
Serbia.
Well, no, Serbia. No. Posh is based. He has a really deep voice. He's educated. He's responsible. He's like one of like the top.
He's a high value. He's high value.
Yeah.
You're not. You didn't earn it.
Well, I would like.
You can't even cook. You can't even cook. You have hot pockets in the back probably right now.
You're Norwegian. Do you make meat?
No, I don't. I eat pickled herring.
I could probably cook better than Grace. That's a fair point.
Pemmican. Can you make pemmican even?
Isn't pemmican like an American
I don't
thing?
know what that
No,
is.
it's Native American. It's just old Native American meat.
I
It's
mean,
just like dried out.
I will give you that you're tall. That I will give you.
I think
that.
I could probably cook and do laundry better than Grace.
yeah, we can have NBA babies.
But that's totally mask, you know.
What?
How are you gonna have a black baby?
To be
There
fair,
are white people in the NBA.
Oh,
to be fair, it was a Serb who has been like, I don't know, double or triple MVP in the last couple of years.
Djokovic or whatever. Yeah.
Jokic.
Oh.
Nikola
okay.
Jokic. So yeah.
I'm half Eastern European though. I'm not full Norwegian. And I think
Actually, Eastern Europe. You're not Ukrainian, are you? I'm gonna get
Hungarian
stabbed.
Ukrainian.
Hungarian.
Hmm. That's the other half.
So you eat sugar with everything.
We're up to 15 memberships to get her out of here.
Amazing. See, this is such a good
The
asset.
value of the Thorbs.
I'm a high value woman in the sense that people will pay a lot of money to get me kicked off a panel, and so in that sense, I do bring a lot of value.
No, that's not value. That's
I was willing to give you high from the ground, and I can't go
high from the ground.
Other than that.
Well, I'm down with Serbian culture. I mean, like I think domestic violence is
Like what?
fine. Stuff like, I'm okay with like slapping a girl around every once in a while if she needs it. I won't go to the police.
Achievement reasons like her father.
God.
Yeah.
You spent too much time with Andrew, you know.
Me?
Because he does emphasize our shared Irish-Serbian friendship over domestic violence. So
When did you start drinking your own piss?
it's basically alcohol.
It's the same. It's the same. Yeah. Oh yeah. Posh, ask her some philosophical questions.
Oh yeah. Question me.
What the fuck?
Go ahead.
Sounds like my Discord server.
I think the chat values my feminine presence here. Okay. Go ahead, Posh. Question me.
Yeah, sure. So have you heard our discussion so far?
I heard a little bit. You guys were talking about libertarianism.
I was going to ask you about dexastic voluntarism.
That's a big word.
It's two of them.
Can you define this word for me, sir?
So dexastic voluntarism is the idea that you pick up
What the fuck are you talking about? Excessive voluntarism?
perspective and believe it to be true because it suits your will.
You talking about fucking sucking my cock, sir?
That's what dexastic.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
So voluntarism.
Excuse me, I don't understand your dialect, sir.
And
Could you enunciate?
Have any comments on that approach to epistemology?
My dad has talked to me about like the difference between the
I
intellect.
bet he talked.
The difference between like the intellect and the will and voluntarism. So like I tend to be somebody who like wants to has like a lot.
Let me reiterate my daddy's point for you now.
Of willpower, wants to just do
I
things, and
can't.
he's always like, no.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I choked on that one. La 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 la.
You have to get the intellect first. You have to get that right first, and then you can decide what to do from that. Because will without intellect.
That's different. I'm asking
okay.
specific, not voluntarism, dexastic voluntarism. So picking some belief,
Sextastic voluntarism.
even choosing to believe something is true because it suits you. As it,
Wait. Choosing to believe something is true because it suits me. So I choose to believe that anything I like is true because it agrees with what I believe. That's interesting. That's an interesting concept. It's like the things I believe actually affirm... Wait, no. The things that affirm my beliefs are in line with the things that I believe. But I think what you're talking about actually like you're talking about excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to dig through this. Anyway, but the thing, right? Like, you're talking about basically like being in an echo chamber, like if a person, like whoever that fucking fuckwad I was talking about, who's the guy, anybody who says. It doesn't even matter who I was talking about, or whatever, at some particular point in time. But a lot of people do this. Sorry, I was trying to do 3 things at once, and I got a little bit, backed up here. But the thing is, okay, so, like, of course we're all gonna, look at sources that kind of, agree with the things we believe, right? But the thing you're talking about is like being in an echo chamber where you don't ever listen to people who disagree with you or like opposing viewpoints. Like that's really what you're talking about, right? Because you're always going to conform, like to like some type of confirmation bias, right? Like you're going to refer to sources that confirm the viewpoints you already hold. But if you're scholarly, you're going to look at sources that also hold opposing viewpoints that kind of clash with that, right?
I believe I don't believe Christianity is necessarily true in the factual sense, but it will save Western civilization, so I'm a Christian now.
Oh.
That's
Well,
successful voluntarism.
I don't really
Yeah.
understand. If something makes sense to you because it's good, then wouldn't that be what you would do? Like I don't understand the difference between saying like, this makes sense, this is good for me, therefore I'm going to do it, versus like, I don't believe in this, but this makes sense, so I'm going to do it. Like
Well, the difference between whether or not you're going to entertain something, like ideologically, and say, oh, well, I can engage with this conceptually, or whether I'm going to do it, right? I can talk about a lot of things conceptually that I wouldn't necessarily engage in, right, in real life, but I could still entertain it conceptually. I could talk about, like behavior that I definitely wouldn't engage in real life. It's like the God thing, like, oh, well, if, an atheist says God exists, does God actually exist? Just like if a non-SAer says SA exists, does it mean that SA actually exists? No, that's bad. Wait, hold on. Let me put that. So we can still talk about the thing and not affirm it like positively as a concept, right? We could be like, oh, this concept exists and people, adhere to it. But that doesn't mean that it's good, right? It doesn't mean that it's correct.
you guys have to talk to the youth. I'm 21 years old, I'm here to learn. Of course, like,
I'm 29, I'm not some geezer. Exactly.
Yeah, you are.
It's not a turn on, by the way. Like, because you were like, just a second ago, you were trying to get down this guy's pants, apparently. And now you're like, well, I'm very young. And if a dude's not a creepo, he's not gonna, probably. I mean, there's a chance. That could be, especially in like the Christian worldview. This guy's not a Christian, right? But in the Christian worldview, like if you're dealing with any type of person like that, she'd be like, oh, she's young and apparently not chaste. So that doesn't help you. Like being young and not chaste doesn't help your case. But anyway, regardless of that, like you just totally contradicted your whole proposal earlier on.
These are inside.
On the inside, but she says we have to talk to the youth. I'm still youth, as per science.
Like, why, for instance,
if
why
you're in
is
your
it
30s, I thought he said he was in his 30s. You're not youth as per science. I don't think that's true.
good to pursue what you're pursuing
Youth
right now?
is like adolescence, like teenage years to like mid-20s.
Well, because I think it benefits me, and it's where my abilities are best. I can best use
Really?
my abilities. Yeah.
Wait,
I'm like a
what if you're
performer type of person.
Okay, but wouldn't your from your view, wouldn't your abilities be best used as being having children and mothering children?
No, just because like I've had a
Definitely
sort of-
not. She, you'd have to improve a lot of things about her. I mean, her worldview is shit. Also, she is still totally attached to the hip to her daddy. That's a red flag right there. And also, she needs to learn to cook and clean properly. And do laundry without sniffing her own fucking drawers. That's weird.
unique situation because I kind of raised my 5 siblings, so I kind of got that out of the
blah 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 blah. That's great. Blah blah. So, isn't your duty in your worldview to be a mother and raise children?
No, there are options in the catechism for pursuing.
Oh boy. Definitely not. It is nobody's duty to be a parent. Don't ever think it is your obligation to be a parent. That's just fucking weird. And your kids will hate you for it if you don't hate them more.
Career or taking care of a parent and stuff like that. Or of course the the religious life. So those are options for people outside of just marriage and family.
I never felt obligated to be a parent. I felt compelled to become a parent. You should feel compelled to become a parent, not by it's not oh, society is forcing me to do this. That's the way I feel about having a job, right? Being a parent is not like having a job. It's like the most, magical adventure you could embark upon. No matter how it goes.
So, but how old are you?
21.
So you're going to explore all your options, and then what? When you're do you have a time frame when you're absolutely going to be well, okay, it's time to be I don't care about my skills or what I have to offer in the option category, that you're just, are you going to get your shit together?
Well, I don't really a lot of people say this to me, but I don't really get it.
She's 21, she's not doing shit with her life right now, and you're talking to her, you're asking her if she's going to get her shit together. This is a wild art scenario where if you were genuine, you would be kick you off the panel, bitch, get out of here, get a job, stop talking to me. Obviously she's not making any type of attempts to get her shit together, right? I'm going to talk, right? But I'm fucking stuck here. I'm already in the situation, I got a number of years on this fucking little fucking person or whatever. Tiny little person. Maybe all Jim Bob's older than me, probably, by whatever margin, but, mentally he's still kind of a midget, a short person, if you will. Vertically challenged.
To it, but most girls my age, even in the old days, would put themselves to use for something. They wouldn't just look around for men. That's how you find a man.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Do something you love and. Right? Or you help your family, I help my family.
Or they give your dad a fucking dowry and buy your ass.
You would have had it arranged. You wouldn't have
Okay.
You would have been impressed by a couple mules. Come on.
Still, it's not like girls are just supposed to sit there and wait for a
fuck
man to marry them.
That's what I love about these fucking Christian Catholic women, these modern girls that claim to be but you would have been sold. You would have been literally fucking sold in the biblical culture. And nowadays, it still works that way. It's all a matter, and they act like it's not, but it's just like the shit we were talking about earlier. It's whether a man can financially provide for me. Well, what do you call provisions? Is it 3 hots? 3 hots in a cot? What do you call provision? The main thing it says to me is the wedding ring. The competition over having a fucking, a big fucking, stone on your finger, or, a band of gold or whatever, which is all, obviously fucking mythological bullshit. Doesn't mean anything, right? But it's a show of your, you've bought this person. right? Like, that's really what it amounts to. Like, this is property. This is paid for. That's what the ring is about.
Right?
Well, I mean, in a sense, you are waiting, though.
It might as well be branded. And, like, I've said that to my partners in the past. If you're gonna, like, actually get married, you might as well get branded and fucking tattooed. Because you can take a ring off and go and philander around, you know, and come back and pretend that nothing happened, right? If you're fucking branded and tattooed, you can't go pull that bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are waiting.
I'm open to it, but I'm just saying, like, what
At
am I
least
supposed to
the
do? Just,
other
like,
person knows they're fucking around, then you have the right to kill them, right? Because they fuck with your property.
bars and try to meet guys?
The same thing.
Wait a second. Are you pursuing it, or are you open it like an apple falling on your head? Like, whoa, who knew?
Well, what would it be if I was pursuing it? Like, what do you mean?
Well, I'm asking you from your perspective. Is there a difference between pursuing it and being open to it?
Hey, Nerdy Rodent, good to see you. 18 to 24 is youth, that's what I thought. Even if a woman would still get sold, there's still a transactional value that happens between between man to man, the man who's been tongue-tied. Okay, wait. Even if a woman would still get sold, there's still a transactional value that happens between man to man. The man who's buying the woman has to have some type of value. Wait, the man doesn't have to have the value. He just has to have the currency. The woman has to be a value to be bought. That just means that she's desirable in some way. It does, like, you're not even evaluating what that dude wants out of her, right? Like, that's really the question. Like, it's assumed in the culture that she will be treated respectfully, right? But historically, it's not always the case. You can't guarantee that. And once she is assigned as property, you have no say in the matter. Like, you can be disgusted all you want, but you can't actually object to the way another man treats his property once you transfer it, right? Like, I could sell you a car, and then you run it into the ground, and I could be like, oh, that's, like, I hate you. But I can't do anything. There's nothing actionable about me objecting to the way you treat my fucking car after I sell it to you, right? That's the way that people are talking about treating other people. I imagine a woman would have a higher expectation than a woman depending on how much... Oh, a man would have a higher expectation than a woman depending on how much he loves his daughter. Yeah, well, it depends on the patriarch in that sense. But not entirely, right? Like, because the wife is still going to influence that decision, right? Like, ultimately, the man is going to be making that final call, but we also know that women in the household are influencing those decisions. So it's not all cut and dry like that. I'm not saying that. But, yeah, legalistically speaking, the man's going to be responsible for his daughter, regardless of what external influences are placed upon him.
I would say you would pursue it if you met a
like,
guy
morally,
really liked, but you would just be open to it if you just hadn't met anybody who you really vibed with.
For instance, if you were pursuing being pursued, if you were
I wonder if I would vibe with Grace's mom.
Pursuing being pursued by a man, would your life look a specific kind of way or any kind of way?
I think my life would look the way it is. I work with my dad, not right now, but I work with my dad. I entertain people that that's the type of person I am.
Okay, so let's say I'm posh, I'm a single man, and I happen to be walking in whatever wilderness I'm parked in right now. So I walk by and I'm posh, and I go, well, golly, there's a woman parked in this.
Jesus fucking Christ! It's like a caricature of the fucking
Dinky
stream that's actually
camper.
happening right now.
I think I would pursue. I'm saying a high value man. Obviously, you want a high value man to be the husband and the father of
High
your children.
value
Right?
in what sense? What is your valuation of a man?
triggering. Honestly, I can't imagine anyone listening to this, regardless of their history, and not have some level of distress. And I could see it producing tremendous distress. We don't go into explicit details of harm to people, but the conversation is so long and so in depth into his mind that I think it could easily be triggering for a lot of people. So just be careful. All right, let's get to that episode. Okay, so Jay, I want to start from the beginning. I want to start from your childhood. And I'm curious, and of course, I'm sure there's lots of different experiences, but for you, Jay, when was the first time that you realized you were attracted to minors?
Well, I was attracted to minors when I was a minor myself. So, I mean, around the ages of 5 and 6 probably is where I began to experience, I would say, some pretty intense attractions to the opposite sex. So in that case, female for me.
So other 5 and 6 year olds?
Yes.
And I'm sure some people in the audience, including myself, will be curious as to what were the factors that led to you having a precocious sexuality at that age. Because, you know, a lot of 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, most don't have an intense feeling of sexual attraction. Some do, and it doesn't mean that there's a pathology there, but was there sexual abuse or some kind of exposure to sexuality prior to that?
Yeah, I mean, there was definite exposure to sexuality. I mean, I should clarify that my attraction wasn't strictly sexual. I mean, there was a pretty big emotional component to that. But yeah, I had an older female relative. She wasn't that much older than me, but she introduced me to sexuality through, you know, sexual play, exploration, although she seemed to have what I would consider pretty advanced knowledge for her age. So my feeling is she was probably abused by an older relative or somebody.
How much older was she than you, and how old were you at the time?
I was 5, so she was, I would just say, about 2 years older than me. I don't want to be too specific, just for,
okay,
I don't want her to be easily identifiable.
And she seemed to know much more than the average 7-year-old, so to speak.
Yeah.
Looking back, how do you view that experience for you?
I don't know how to feel about it. I mean, I feel pretty neutral about it. You know, it was enjoyable at the time.
Did it feel like it was exposing you too quickly to something?
Well, I mean, I realize in hindsight, yeah, it was definitely not something that should have taken place. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I mean, it was new and exciting. I mean, I liked it.
What did you like about it?
I mean, I just liked the way it felt. I liked the feeling of physical intimacy, and, you know, there was, I mean, I had the ability to have sexual gratification. I mean, obviously, a child that age can't experience it the way adults do, but there's still something there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a sensation, a pleasure.
Yeah.
And you also said there was an attachment feeling as well, an attachment satisfaction, a feeling of being close to another human being.
Yeah. You know, with her, it was probably more physical, but then I began to get that emotional component with other girls that I sort of, you know, copied that behavior with.
Yeah. Were you generally neglected emotionally around that time?
No, I wouldn't say so.
What was the quality of your parenting prior to 5?
My therapist says that that it wasn't very good. It wasn't ideal. My parents were very young, so they were basically teenagers when I was born. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of not ideal, I guess, situations.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I can look back and say, yeah, I had some sort of like abandonment trauma, especially around my mother. But like, I mean, she did her best, and honestly, she didn't really abandon me. But like, you know, she would drop me off at my dad's on the weekends or during the week. They sort of flip-flopped which way that arrangement went at different times. But like, I would feel like she was just leaving me behind. And I can remember even when she was going to work, crying because I just didn't want her to go away.
Yeah. It sounds like your parents were a little in over their heads because they were young, maybe stressed out about money and maybe even their own relationship. Although your mom was good and loving, she might have had some stresses that led to some abandonment, as you're putting it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. And they were actually divorced very early on. I don't have any memory of them being together. Mm-hmm. So my memories are of each of them having a new spouse.
Mm-hmm. And then when you're 5, unfortunately, you come across an abusive older kid and you think, well, you know, 7, that's pretty young. But when you're 5, a 7-year-old is an adult to some extent, you know, maybe not that far. But I remember thinking that 7-year-olds were extremely wise and older. And so she comes along and I'm just going to say it, abuses you, because it's not a good thing to do to a child. You're suspecting she was abused, and I would suspect that too. But
well, look, I mean, I don't, you know, she was, I think, simply acting out based on her own abuse, and I don't think that she was in any way malicious.
No. She, well, it's hard to know what was in her mind, but for sure, in all likelihood, she was doing what she thought was what you do, or she was trying to connect or something. And it sounds like for you, it had some positive elements to it, but I think most people would agree, I think including yourself, that it was exposing you to things that you shouldn't have been exposed to, right?
Right, no, definitely.
Yeah. And then that locks in a reward system, if you will, and an exposure to ideas and to the way things could be, or the way things maybe even are. And did you tell anyone? Did you tell your parents at all what had happened?
No, I definitely did not. I mean, I think it was understood, you know, that this should be kept a secret. And for both of us, I mean, it wasn't because I was trying to protect her.
Good morning, Silverwolf. Good to see you.
From getting in trouble, but it was for, you know, to protect both of us. And I mean, and we did get caught a couple times, but, you know, it was just kind of, okay, naughty kids, you know.
Yeah. Was it more than once, or was it just once?
That we were caught?
That you had an encounter with your older.
Oh, my goodness. No, it was ongoing for years.
Mm-hmm. And for how many years?
Up until I was around probably 13.
Okay. And why did it end? I'm curious.
I don't know. I think we probably Well, I mean, I pretty much lost attraction, I guess, to her.
Mhm.
You know, and she probably did the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, or we, you know, just kind of became aware at that point that okay, this is not something we should be doing.
Yeah. And I know this is getting into a little specific, so you know, feel free to just say you don't want to get into it. But was it frequent?
No, I mean, it was on the order. I mean, it depended. There's different periods, but I mean, it could be as frequent as once every couple of weeks to 2-3 times a year.
Okay. And you would miss each other?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. And if you could, you would have seen each other more often?
Probably, yeah.
And you lost attraction to her, why?
She went through puberty, and yeah, I just didn't have an attraction to that, kind of body.
Right. And also during that time, you were having encounters with other children your age?
Correct.
And were those encounters, were you initiating? Were people initiating with you? What was happening?
I was initiating a lot of times, but there were times where it seemed more sort of 50-50, I guess. But I definitely had people decline, and I didn't pursue, after that.
Was it on your mind often?
I mean, pretty much any girl I met, I considered whether or not we could have that kind of relationship.
So you're in.
Or deny the accuracy of any of it. It's getting light outside already. Wow.
I didn't mean to do that, but maybe a good time. It's pretty deep emotional content.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that
for bipedal locomotion, but no inclination to walk. It just wouldn't happen. You get so humans solve the adaptive problem of getting food into your body the exact same way. Men and women solve it the same way. Virtually no difference.
Right now, all right, I'll be back. Gotta go.